Feeling that it might be the flu, I checked my daughter's temperature, and it was a high 102 degrees Fahrenheit. When I informed my husband about the situation and expressed the need to take her to the hospital, he surprised me with an unexpected statement.
Actually, I'm heading to Hawaii with my parents right now.
Despite my shock at his sudden revelation, I quickly shifted gears. I notified my workplace about my absence and decided to rush to the hospital in my car, which my husband rarely used. However, just then, my husband Michael and my mother-in-law appeared, carrying their luggage. My mother-in-law nonchalantly declared,
"You can walk to the hospital. We're off to Hawaii."
And with that, they took my daughter out of the car and drove away. I stood there, utterly stunned. The sound of my daughter's apologetic voice echoed in my mind, squeezing my heart. I immediately called a taxi, focusing on getting her to the hospital. Deep inside, I vowed to get back at my husband and mother-in-law. They would definitely face the consequences. I am Olivia Smith, a 38-year-old nurse. My husband, Michael, is 40 years old, 2 years older than me, and works as an office worker in a company. Our daughter, Emma, recently turned 8 years old. She has a quiet personality and often spends time reading books alone. Due to the nature of my work, I had limited interaction with the opposite sex, and I focused on building my career. As a result, I rarely participated in social gatherings. However, when I was 29 years old, a friend expressed anxiety about attending a matchmaking event alone. Despite my lack of interest, I accompanied her as moral support. It was during this event that I had a fateful encounter with Michael. At the time, he was also deeply immersed in work, missing opportunities to consider marriage. I found myself drawn to his dedication, warmth, stable income, and understanding of my profession. Unbeknownst to me, I was falling for him. To my delight, it seemed that Michael felt the same way.
I'd like to get to know you better, Olivia.
Hearing those words made me truly happy. And so, we began a relationship with marriage in mind. Within a year, we were already married. Almost simultaneously, I became pregnant and gave birth to our daughter. Since we both initially agreed that having one child was sufficient, we didn't make any effort to get pregnant afterwards. And now, 8 years have flown by, bringing us to the present. Amidst all this, one day Michael dropped a bombshell.
My mom will be staying with us starting tomorrow. Please take care of her.
His sudden announcement about cohabitation caught me off guard. I couldn't help but ask, what on earth is going on? Why is your mom coming over out of the blue? According to Michael, there had been a heated argument between his parents. During the dispute, his mother declared that she was leaving and began packing her bags. Naturally, the only place she could turn to was her son, Michael. So, abruptly, it was decided that she would be coming to our house tomorrow. Even my own parents had never considered living together, so I naturally opposed the idea. I argued, unless she needs caregiving, it's absurd for her to show up here like this just because of a disagreement with your dad. Are our circumstances completely irrelevant? Think this through. I expressed my frustration. But Michael responded with visible displeasure.
Is living with my mom really that unpleasant for you? Well, I didn't expect you to be so cold.
I couldn't directly challenge his words, and Michael's intimidating demeanor left me trembling. His face at that moment was truly terrifying. Unable to find my own words, I resorted to glaring at him. As I remained silent, Michael arrogantly declared,
Resisting is futile. Quickly prepare a room for my mom.
However, our home is a rental property, and accommodating a new housemate requires approval from the landlord or property management company. Contractually, I am responsible for handling such procedures. Additionally, in a home suitable for our family of 3, including our child, there are no vacant rooms. There's no available room even if you say that, I explained. But Michael remained unfazed.
Then let's open up Emma's room. She can spend time in the living room.
Wait. Are you taking our daughter's room away?
She's just an elementary school student. It should be fine. Besides, monitoring her homework in the living room is possible. It's not uncommon for elementary students to lack their own rooms, right? Consider it part of her education.
He replied nonchalantly. This was absurd. Clearly, it was my husband and mother-in-law's selfishness. Yet, Michael stubbornly refused, and Emma ended up living in the living room for a while. Faced with my husband's heartless proposal, I could only stare in shock. I felt pathetic for not being able to protect my daughter. Why prioritize your mom over Emma? I asked. Michael responded with an annoyed expression.
Don't interfere with my filial duty and gratitude. This decision is final. The discussion ends here.
However, accepting cohabitation based solely on that reason was out of the question. While I understand that your mom has nowhere else to go, we have our own lives. Can't we reconsider living together? I persisted, repeatedly protesting. But Michael's decision remained unchanged. And when our daughter returned from her extracurricular activities, my husband said,
Your room will now be used by Grandma. So clean it up immediately.
I tried to interject, but Emma assured me that she was okay and proceeded to move her belongings to the living room. Watching her obediently comply without any protest, my heart ached. Simultaneously, anger toward my husband surged within me. Michael had become increasingly indifferent to household chores, contributed nothing to our living expenses, and frequently returned home late. Despite my daughter being only 8 years old, I had endured, believing that she needed her father. But this incident felt like a turning point. The next day, as promised, my mother-in-law arrived. However, the moment she stepped inside, she began complaining.
What's going on here? How can anyone live in such a cramped space? Michael! Are you even listening?
She stood at the entrance, fuming. Coincidentally, our neighbor returned home and observed the situation. Feeling flustered, I quickly put on a polite smile. When I checked with the property management company about my mother-in-law staying with us, they informed me that for short durations, no special procedures were necessary, just a notification would suffice. My true desire was for my mother-in-law to return home as soon as possible, ideally within 2 weeks. However, that hope shattered when I saw the large suitcase she had brought. It was clearly packed for a stay of over a month or perhaps indefinitely. Seeing her luggage, I felt utterly defeated. Without a care for my feelings, my mother-in-law brazenly entered the room, her eyes darting around as if inspecting every nook and cranny. She then proceeded to open the refrigerator without permission and resumed her complaints.
What's this? The fridge is practically empty. When you know your husband's mother is coming, you're supposed to stock up on groceries and snacks, ready to serve anything at a moment's notice. Or do you normally live such a frugal life? Are you wasting your husband's money?
Her complaints flowed effortlessly, and I couldn't help but be slightly impressed by her ability to criticize. If there were a championship for complaints, my mother-in-law would likely win. Initially, I had planned to go grocery shopping today, but her unexpected arrival disrupted my schedule. I had rushed to tidy up after work, leaving no time for shopping. How about ordering takeout since I'll do the shopping properly tomorrow? I suggested. Ignoring her snide remarks, I put on my best smile and asked my mother-in-law. But she promptly snapped back at me.
What are you saying? Takeout is out of the question. A mother or wife who doesn't cook is nothing but useless. Stop trying to slack off and go shopping right now. Prepare main dishes, side dishes, bread, soup, and even dessert.
She plopped down on the sofa, and my husband chimed in coldly.
Listen to Mom. Go shopping immediately.
And just like that, my hopes were shattered. Reluctantly, I went to my room, grabbed a reusable bag, my purse, and left the house. After buying a large amount of groceries at the supermarket, I returned home about an hour later. To my surprise, a startling scene unfolded before me. While I was out shopping, my daughter had been doing her homework in the living room. However, my mother-in-law was now standing behind her, glaring at Emma with an expression akin to a demon.
How many times do I have to tell you? You're such a dim-witted child.
My daughter looked like she might burst into tears any moment. Panicking, I stepped between them. Wait, please. Don't be so angry.
What's wrong with me? Don't interfere with my educational methods. If she's falling short, I'll scold her. That's the basics.
But that's an outdated approach. Scaring her like that will make her hate studying, I argued. My words fell on deaf ears as my mother-in-law sighed in exasperation. She then made a condescending remark, looking down on both Emma and me.
It would have been better if Emma took after smart Michael.
Seeing my daughter's downcast expression, I quickly reassured her. It's okay, Emma. You can go at your own pace. Then, I shot a stern look at my mother-in-law. However, she remained unfazed. Annoyed by my retort, she opened one of the grocery bags and greedily started devouring snacks. And 1 week after my mother-in-law's visit, I was on the verge of exploding with frustration. I finally decided to confide in my husband, although he had consistently avoided discussing the issue whenever I tried to broach it. But this time, I wouldn't let him escape. I grabbed his hand and poured out my feelings. Sorry, but I can't take it anymore. It's high time your mother left. I can tolerate her snide remarks, but now it's affecting Emma too. My husband scowled and retorted in a firm tone.
Why can you say something like that? You're in a position where my mom helps with household chores. It's unthinkable for you to act so high and mighty. Emma's struggles with studying might be because she inherited your genes.
His heartless words finally pushed me over the edge. I couldn't bear it any longer. Besides, my mother-in-law always put on a pleasant face in front of Michael. While I busied myself with housework, she would approach me with a smile and say,
You don't need to push yourself so hard. I'll take care of the rest. Please rest.
But despite pretending to help, she never actually finished anything, leaving me to handle everything. The routine was familiar. Just before my husband took a bath, she'd say kind words and pretend to cooperate. But as soon as he was out of sight, she'd delegate everything to me. Despite this reality, whether due to obliviousness or willful ignorance, my husband never stood up for me. Frustrated by his cluelessness, I finally confronted him with the pent-up resentment I'd been harboring for so long. In the end, your most cherished person seems to be your mom, not Emma or me, right? You can calmly watch your own daughter suffer unjust treatment from your mom. I wouldn't tolerate it even if my own mom did something like that. I'd cut ties. In response, Michael sneered.
What are you talking about? Mom is always right. Unlike you, who merely attended a nursing vocational school, Mom and I have university degrees. Maybe Emma's struggles with studying and sports are because she inherited your genes. She's genuinely pitiable.
Seeing him laugh, something inside me snapped. But I thought it would be childish to get emotional at this point. I replied, ending the conversation. Maybe you're right. On another day, Emma, who usually woke up early, remained in bed. Worried, I went to her room and found her feeling unwell. Her temperature was 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and I suspected it might be the flu. When I informed my husband and suggested taking her to the hospital, he surprised me with an unexpected statement.
Actually, I'm heading to Hawaii with my parents.
Despite my shock, I quickly shifted gears. I notified my workplace and decided to rush to the hospital in my car, which my husband rarely used. But just then, Michael and my mother-in-law appeared, carrying their luggage. My mother-in-law declared,
You can walk to the hospital. We're off to Hawaii.
They took my daughter out of the car and drove away. I stood there, utterly stunned. As Emma apologized, I called a taxi and focused on getting her to the hospital. And in my heart, I vowed to get back at my husband and mother-in-law. They would definitely face the consequences. They probably never expected me to take such resolute action. With their punishment in mind, I continued to silently condemn them. And 2.5 hours later, despite growing tired of Michael's repeated calls, I reluctantly answered the phone. His voice trembled as he sought help, explaining that he had been in an accident on the way to the airport. "Why did this happen? What were you doing with my car?" I demanded. His response was sharp.
Is that your first concern? Aren't you worried about our safety?
"Oh, I apologize. Emma is the only one I care about now."
What's that? Well, fine. Just figure it out somehow.
My car was a manual transmission, and although Michael was capable of driving it, he seemed to have forgotten how. But the accident was entirely his fault. I had warned him before, transitioning abruptly from an automatic to a manual car was dangerous. Yet, he had taken my car without permission, and I considered the consequences of his own doing.
Dealing with the accident is eating into our flight time. It's your car, so you handle it. And why do you still have this difficult to drive, gas-guzzling, beat-up vehicle? Seriously, it's useless.
He continued, criticizing my car. At this point, his complaints felt like the desperate howling of a sore loser. Feeling utterly detached, I responded with exasperation. "So what? You knew my car was a manual. You deliberately took it out and caused the accident. Responsibility lies with the driver. If you collided with the guardrail, you'll cover the repair costs. Naturally, you'll also pay for fixing the guardrail." With those words, I unilaterally ended the call. Ignoring the persistent phone calls, I remained at the hospital with my daughter. Emma's fever turned out to be from a common cold, not the flu. She was currently awaiting necessary tests. Knowing it wasn't the flu brought relief. Since I had my phone on silent mode, neither my husband nor my mother-in-law distracted me. But then, a new message notification chimed. Had they switched to messaging after my phone calls when unanswered? Sighing, I checked the sender, and there it was, my father-in-law's name. Had he also taken Michael's side? I wondered. However, while my mother-in-law's message sought help, my father-in-law's inquiry was about what was happening. Confused, I replied only to my father-in-law, asking for an explanation. And that's when a shocking revelation came to light. As it turns out, my father-in-law had not been informed about the Hawaii trip at all. On that day, he was enjoying his hobby of running. During that time, my mother-in-law contacted him, saying there had been an accident and asking him to pick her up. However, her messages were vague, merely urging him to come quickly, which led him to dismiss them as attention-seeking behavior. Later, when Michael also reached out for help, my father-in-law assumed that Emma and I were involved and contacted us out of concern. It was then that I recalled the heated argument between my mother-in-law and father-in-law, which had resulted in her leaving her home. My father-in-law had no idea that my mother-in-law had moved in without permission, and he believed he was simply caught up in an inconvenient situation. Taking a deep breath to calm myself, I explained everything. In reality, she is currently staying with us. And today, Michael and his parents, including you, left for Hawaii on a family trip. When I recounted the mistreatment my husband and mother-in-law had subjected Emma and me to just before their departure, my father-in-law was left speechless.
Olivia, I apologize for not knowing about that incident. They truly are beyond help. Where are you now? I'll head over immediately. Let's discuss what to do about them.
I agreed with my father-in-law's words and promptly let him know the hospital address. A few dozen minutes later, I was called by the doctor for a detailed examination of my daughter. While I received her medication, My father-in-law arrived. Hi, it's been a while.
Ah, I've said it many times, but I'm truly sorry about what my son and wife did.
My daughter, though unwell due to the fever, looked delighted to see her grandfather.
Grandpa, you came.
Yeah, that's right. I hear you have a fever. I hope you get better soon. Once you're well, let's go out for something delicious.
Okay. I'll do my best to recover.
After being comforted by the warm exchange between my daughter and father-in-law, I decided to contact my parents and ask them to take care of my daughter. The reason was that I had received a series of messages from Michael and my mother-in-law. When I opened the messages, they were filled with insults directed at me.
Because you didn't handle it, we missed our flight. We can't cancel, so it's as good as losing a fortune. You're responsible for reimbursing the travel expenses for all three of us.
I had a chance to reconcile with my husband, but you ruined it.
I sighed and showed the contents of the messages to my father-in-law.
Those two.
He's furious. It's time to settle things with them once and for all. I apologized to my parents for burdening them and explained to my daughter that I had important matters to attend to. Then my father-in-law and I left for my parents' house. I called my husband and mother-in-law to a casual restaurant. They arrived promptly, seemingly eager to voice their complaints directly to me. However, their expressions turned pale when they noticed my father-in-law sitting next to me.
Wait, why is Dad here?
What's the matter? Is it a problem that I'm here? Oh, right. You guys told Olivia that we were going on a family trip with all three of us. You even messaged her about it, saying it was a chance for you to reconcile.
Both of them glanced at me, clearly taken aback. I calmly responded. I didn't contact Dad directly. It was actually Mom and Michael who reached out to him. Concerned, he contacted me.
What family trip? Why am I suddenly part of this trip?
Well.
Mother-in-law and Michael were visibly flustered, trying to come up with excuses. But I already knew the truth they were hiding. Wasn't it a trip with your affair partner? I asked matter-of-factly.
What? What are you talking about? Stop making baseless accusations.
Exactly. Are you suspecting Michael?
I then revealed a piece of evidence, dashcam footage. You see, I had synced my car's video feed to my phone. The recording clearly showed their secret escapade.
Why is this footage here?
I'm the type who takes security seriously, so I have a proper dashcam installed. That's why I can see both the footage from the time you were driving and the footage from the accident. The woman here is your affair partner, isn't she? If I investigate now, it'll be easy to figure out your relationship. My husband and mother-in-law exchanged glances and confessed everything. Indeed, the woman who was with them seems to have been my husband's affair partner.
Well, she's the person Mom introduced me to. She's young, and Mom thought she could have more children, so I should remarry.
Yes, that way we can have a child with Michael's intelligent genes.
My father-in-law and I couldn't calm our anger upon hearing those words.
Enough already. How twisted are your personalities?
Do you really think the world revolves around you? Even if a smart child is born, the child will likely grow up to be a nuisance in human society. Raised by such self-centered parents and grandmother who lack common sense, the child won't develop a decent personality. My mother-in-law glared at my statement, but my father-in-law stood up for me.
What are you glaring at? She just told you the truth. You and Michael are terrible parents, mocking Emma as well. Don't involve us any further.
Huh? What does that mean?
It means divorce.
Of course, I'll also get a divorce. I'll claim alimony and child support from Michael.
Wait a minute. Demanding all that suddenly is unfair. I'm already paying for the car and guardrail repairs, as well as canceling the Hawaii trip.
That's all your own doing, isn't it? I'll make sure you pay exactly what I'm claiming.
I'll proceed with the divorce proceedings promptly. Don't ever involve me again.
Wait!
My mother-in-law and husband looked pale and worn out. Ignoring their distress, my father-in-law and I left the restaurant. Later, we completed all the necessary legal procedures through an attorney. The divorce was finalized, and my ex-husband ended up burdened with substantial debt. As for my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband, they had planned to rely on their affair partner for household chores and repay the debt. However, after the recent accident and witnessing their behavior toward me during the crisis, the affair partner felt unsafe and fled. Now, my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband live together in a modest apartment, working tirelessly to repay their debts. On the other hand, I returned to my parents' home with my daughter. As a single mother, I work hard, balancing parenting and my nursing job. Despite the challenges, my income is stable, and I can support my daughter's aspirations for the future. I maintain regular contact with my father-in-law, and he enjoys spending time with his granddaughter. Seeing my daughter's joy when she meets her grandfather warms my heart. Moving forward, I'll continue to cherish my daughter, give my best in everything I do, and strive for a happy life.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this content, consider subscribing to my channel. See you in the next video.